Motherfucker. How's it going, guys? My name is ONESIEBANETTE and welcome to my draft analysis for my draft for the EWT, the Eon World Tour, which is probably going to be my final draft league of Generation 7 before Sword and Shield comes in and ushers in a brand new age of competitive Pokemon with only half of the deck. But we're not going to go over that. We're not going to get into that. Instead, what we are going to get into is my draft for this competition. Now, this league is going to have some interesting people in it, a lot of people that I've never actually played before, but there's also a couple of familiar faces, such as Mid and Kelly, but this is going to be a very, very interesting league. And I wanted this draft, same as everyone else here, to be full of things that I haven't used before, or things that I haven't had a chance to use much of and wanted to expand upon. And I had a bit of a draft, like a bit of a plan for this, because I've been messing around in some smaller leagues with ONESIEBANETTE and with Marowak and Mew as a core. It was like an offensive, synergistic core. And it seemed to have worked really, really well. In one of my smaller leagues, I went 6 games unbeaten using that core because they were so well suited. ONESIEBANETTE is just so good at taking rid of, getting rid of specific threats for my Pokemon to actually deal with later on. But I was unfortunately unable to grab Mew, because literally the turn before it got to me, it was taken. So my initial draft plan, which was going to be ONESIEBANETTE, Marowak, and Mew, had to be thrown out of the window literally as it was my pick. So instead, I went with the old reliable, old faithful Zapdos. Now, Zapdos is a very good mon. Obviously, you all know what Zapdos does. It's fast, it's bulky, it's strong. It has a lot of utility, it's got speed, it's got Baton Pass, it's got all kinds of things, and Zapdos is just a very, very solid Pokemon. Now, when you get a Pokemon like Zapdos, you're using it mainly for Defog, you're using it mainly to be bulky, and you're also using it to keep momentum and hit quite strong. It's a very good mon. It's one that I haven't personally had a chance to use yet, so I thought this would be the perfect chance to actually get in there, give Zapdos a go, see how I think it stacks up against all of the other electric types that I've seen. Now, obviously, there are some stipulations to every league that you go into. There are some generic rules for each league. This league has a rule where you cannot Baton Pass any stat changes whatsoever. So, unfortunately, I will be unable to Agility Pass with Zapdos, but that is not a massive issue because I get Defog, I get Roost, I get all of the other good stuff that comes along with Zapdos, and I think that that's going to be very, very useful. So, yeah, Zapdos was my first pick, and I figured, you know what? I've just picked something I've never picked before. Let's go with something that I have picked before and have quite a bit of experience using. So my next pick was going to be Sylveon. Now, Sylveon pairs up quite nicely with Zapdos, I find. Not type-wise, not weakness and resistance-wise, but I'm talking in terms of their move pools. Both of them have access to some kind of momentum, whereas Sylveon has access to Baton Pass. Zapdos has access to U-turn and Volt Switch, so you could pull some kind of shenanigans off with that. So they also work quite well because they're both very strong special attackers. Sylveon having access to Hyper Voice, which with Pixelate, it's just an absolute truck. It hits like good old Fernando over here. I've used it quite a few times. It's a very good Pokemon and it's quite reliable. It works well as a fairy. It's one of the better fairies to get out there. Pick it up quite early so that you can start working on your Fairy Steel Dragon Core, which is precisely what I'm going to be going for next. I feel that Sylveon is a very good partner to any kind of Dragon Fairy Steel Core just because of the utility it offers. It can be a very good Cleric, a very good Wall Breaker. It can do some fun stuff with Curse Quick Attack, which I've done quite a few times. It can just do a lot of cool stuff, and it's a very, very nice Pokemon. Pairs quite well with Zapdos. And you're going to find a thing with this draft, I'm not going to pick anything that has the same speed tier. So there's not going to be any base 60s after this, which is going to be very, very fun. So, yeah, we decided we were going to start working on our Fairy Dragon Steel Core. And I thought, you know what, I've used quite a lot of dragons. I've used Salamence, I've used Latias, I've used Hydreigon, I've used Dragonite, I haven't used Kyurem Black, but I didn't want to go for Kyurem Black. But I've used quite a lot of dragons in the format. I thought, you know what, let's go for one that I haven't. Goodra. Now, Goodra round 3 seems a little bit strange. And to be honest, it is a little bit strange considering I already have a special tank in Sylveon and I already have a bulky Pokemon with Zapdos. But you can kind of see what I'm going for here. You can see that all 3 of my picks so far have been quite bulky. and that ain't about to change. I have never drafted a fat team before. I always go for, especially since Gen 7 came around, I always go for some kind of hyper offense momentum play, and I wanted to change that. I figured I've come up against so many teams, and those teams, like, I've come up against so many teams that have such a strong defensive core that they are a nightmare to prep for. And I decided I wanted to be one of those teams in this league. So we drafted Goodra. Goodra may be incredibly specially bulky, but it is also quite strong on the special side with a base 110 special attack. It has some very interesting moves, got a fantastic move pool with the likes of Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, Power Whip on the physical side, Earthquake on the physical side, Dragon Pulse, Draco Meteor. It's got all kinds of fun stuff. It can do Hydration Rest shenanigans. It can do Gooey shenanigans. It just seems like a nice, fun, gimmicky pick for one. It's got a lot of interesting tools, and I thought that it would work quite well with Sylveon, to be honest. Also, it's a fantastic special tank, so I'm a little bit worried about physical attacks at this moment, but I think I'm looking quite good on the special side. Now, with my fourth pick over here, I am actually going to finish off my Fairy Dragon Steel core with Skarmory. Now, I'm doubling down on my flying types, which I don't normally like to do, but I feel like I can make an exception with Skarmory. I've got a little bit of a thing going on at the moment. I pick a mon I haven't used, and then I pick a mon that I have used, so I just go alternating between that. It means that I can get a nice little balance between Pokemon I have used and Pokemon that I haven't used, and it should be quite fun that way. Now, Skarmory I have used before. I've actually used it in my highest placing season, which was PPL Season 2, where I finished 3rd. I think I was 1 win away from winning the league that season. Fortunately, I lost on the final day, which meant that I didn't win. But Skarmory was a very, very integral part of that season. Skarmory is a fantastic Stealth Rock setter, a fantastic defogger. It's very, very good physical tank. It has some fantastic moves. It can do some fun stuff with nice flying stab with Brave Bird. And I figured that it worked very well alongside my special behemoths that I have over here. Goodra having a 150 special defense. Skarmory having a 140 defense, Sylveon having the ability to pass wishes into the pair of them, Skarmory having its own roost to heal itself back up. I just figured that it worked quite well. We all know what Skarmory does at this point, and I feel like it's going to work quite well along with the other Pokemon that I have here. So yeah, pretty simple stuff really. Now, we're going to move on to our next pick, and I figured I've picked nothing but fat so far. So let's go with something that is the antithesis of fat. We're going for Salazzle. Now, Salazzle is a monster. I adore Salazzle. One thing that I did notice as well is corrosion. If anyone wants to try and bulk me out, that's not really going to happen because I now have the ability to toxic poison and steel types. So I have a cleric, I have a lot of fat stuff, and now I have a Pokemon that is able to poison types that cannot be poisoned. So this is going to be fun. And most Pokemon that are going to have access to stuff like Heal Bell and Aromatherapy, besides like Blissey and Chansey, possibly Miltank, but Miltank doesn't really count because we don't like Miltank. But most Pokemon that are going to be clerics are going to be either Grass, Fairy, or something like an Ordino that's not really going to want to deal with Salazzle. So Salazzle is like the anti-cleric Pokemon. It's frail as all heck, but it is also strong as heck. Has the ability to toxic Pokemon that cannot be toxicked, and also has an amazing base 117 speed stat, which is amazing. Outspeeds the likes of Cinccino and Floatzel, all those pesky base 115s. It outspeeds all the genies. So yeah, Salazzle looks like it's going to be a very nice fit here. That fire and poison typing as well going very, very nicely together. Now, Salazzle's something that, if we're going in my order, that I haven't used. However, my next Pokemon is something that I have also not used in Crocodile. I don't think it was Crocodile next. I don't think it was Crocodile next at all. But we'll go with that because the next, yeah, I think there was some kind of mix-up with the slides, but that's not a problem. I think it was the exact same in the draft stream as well. But Crocodile is also something that I haven't used, and I figured that it filled quite a nice niche on this team. it gives me a dark type and it gives me a ground type. Two things that I was going to have to struggle to get otherwise. I had my heart set on Marowak for my ground type from the outset, but as soon as Mew went out the window, I decided we're not going to deal with Marowak. We've used that before, it worked quite well, but we're just not going to deal with it again. We'll go with something different, and Crocodile is a very, very nice Pokemon. Base 92 speed, base 118 attack, I believe it is, or maybe higher than that. And very, very nice typing with Stab Knockoff, Stab Suit, and fantastic abilities in Moxie and Intimidate. Now, I feel like Crocodile is going to give a lot of versatility here. It's going to be able to trap things that are going to threaten other Pokemon on my team. It's going to be able to just hit really hard with those Stab Earthquakes and Stab Knockoffs. I just feel like Crocodile, it worked quite synergistically well here with the team. It also gave me access to a dark type that would fill a speed tier gap that I was going to have later on, because you would be surprised how difficult it actually is to fill the speed tier gap between 117 and 100. There are a lot of Pokemon that have speed between that, but when you've picked your squad already and you're having to conserve a budget, that's when it gets very, very weird. Now, speaking of budget, you can probably see that at the moment I'm going quite low on my budget. You can see I only have 200 points left, and Crocodile is like 120. So at this speed, you'd think I'd only be able to go another 2 months, and then I'd be done. But there's an interesting rule with the EWT. Now, every Mega either loses you 20 points, loses you no points, or gains you either 20, 40, 60, or 80 points. So, if you go to minus 80 in your points, you can then pick a Mega that gives you plus 80 points and finish your draft with 0 points. Meaning that I can go into minus 80 and then still be able to get another Pokemon on top of that, which essentially gives me 280 points to, 200 points to pick 4 Pokemon, which isn't too bad really. And I decided I was going to make full advantage of that and pick my next Pokemon, which was Milotic. Now, Milotic is a good water type. It does help out with as you can tell, it's also very fat. I now have fat plus Salazzle and Crocodile, which is going to be very, very nice. It's obviously going to work quite well with Zapdos, because I'm going to be able to resist the ice attacks that Zapdos is going to be weak to, and Zapdos is going to be able to resist the grass attacks that Milotic is weak to. So that's going to work out very, very nicely for Milotic there. Milotic has some nice phasing potential. It's a bulky water, which is quite nice in Draft League. It's always been quite a sought after archetype, the bulky water has, and Milotic does bulky water stuff in spades. I just felt like it worked quite well here. Obviously Marvel Scale and competitive allow me to do some shenanigans as well, but for the moment, bulky water does what it needs to do. Let's move on. 60 points remaining, and next Pokemon was Mienshao, which put me down to minus 40, which meant that I only had 40 points to get 2 Pokemon and then a Mega that gave me 80 points back. Now, the reason I went with Mienshao here really was because Regenerator, U-Turn, and a base 105 speed stat meant that I kind of needed Mienshao. If Mienshao had gone, I would have struggled immensely. I would have really struggled to fill all of my speed tiers and fill all my speed gaps. But Mienshao is one of the most versatile fighting types out there, I believe. With access to Regenerator and Reckless and U-Turn and being able to hit both specially and physically offensive, you can do all kinds of cool things with Mienshao. Mienshao can perform many different roles. If you want to go defensive with it, you can even do that with Regenerator and Assault Vest. I had someone do that against me quite recently, which was very interesting. It worked out perfectly for them as well, so Mienshao seemed like it was going to be very, very good. And did I mention it hits like a truck? Base 125 attack stat with Reckless and High Jump Kick. Oof, that's a big oof from me. So yeah, fit quite well. Filled a speed tier, filled like a gap in my speed tiers, and does fighting type things, so I can't really complain too much. It's a nice fighting type, and yeah, I'm looking forward to using the dude. Now, this is where we get into some classic onesie picks, because I am a silly, silly person, and I pick silly, silly Pokemon. And you're going to find out that with my next Pokemon. There are a couple of archetypes I'm missing. I have no bulky Psychic, I have no Grass type, and I have no ghost type. And I essentially have 20 points to fill 2 of those, and 80 points to get a mega that fills 1 of those. And I had a couple of options I was thinking of. I considered going against my own principles and picking Carnivine for the grass type, which I swiftly went, no, you're not doing that. Carnivine is disgusting. I also considered picking Servine very heavily, I must admit. I was very close to picking Servine, but I decided on a different grass type, and I wanted to see what grass types were around first. And we decided to go with our next pick, with our bulky psychic, Duosian. Right, now I was talked into this by Shroomraver, who was winner of PPL Season 2, and he says he's seen Duosian do things. It's very bulky, and it also hits very hard. Funnily enough, this thing right here is my joint strongest special attacker. It has the same special attack stat of 125 as Zapdos. It also has Regenerator. It also has ridiculous bulk when you give it Eviolite. And it also gets Calm Mind, Trick Room, and just a load of other cool stuff. I think it gets Magic Guard as well, so you can't even Toxic it if you wanted to. And it synergistically worked very well in a Regenerator core with Mienshao. Mienshao would go out, hit something really hard, switch back into Duosian, who would then take the incoming hit, who would then get its ass back out into Mienshao and rinse and repeat as a Regenerator core. And I just thought about that and was like, yeah, alright, I'll give it a go. I will give it a go. And I'm actually really looking forward to using this thing. This thing looks fun. It looks like it's going to take hits. Obviously, I need to be careful with knockoffs, but I feel like I have the Pokemon to be able to do that. But this is going to be fun. Oh, dear. When you start going to the bargain basement for your bulky Psychic type, you know you're going to have a fun season. Oh, I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to style on some falls. Now, my 10th pick, is going to be my Mega. Now, there was only really one Mega I had my sights on from the very beginning, and I've already mentioned it. Good old faithful Mega Banette. Now, Mega Banette, people sleep on this dude. People don't understand how Destiny Bond works. People don't understand that it actually has a fairly usable 93 special attack stat and Dazzling Gleam to deal with any dark types that think they're going to be clever and be like, ooh, it's going to try and Toxic me. I'll go into my Crocodile, or I'll go into my Absol, or I'll go into my Crawdaunt, or whatever, and I'll just avoid it. Ah ha ha, I'm clever. No, you're not clever, because then I'll just Dazzling Gleam you and 2-hit KO you. Mega Banette is amazing. Honestly, I've had so much fun using this thing in some of my smaller leagues that I've been in. I've had so much fun using this thing in PPL Season 1. It hits like a truck. It only has 5 base attack points less than Kyurem Black. It has a move pool that consists of all kinds of tricks, like Calm Mind, like Rest, Sleep Talk, like Cotton Guard to raise its defense loads, like Taunts, like Will-O-Wisp, like Toxic. It can do Trick Room things if it really wants to. It is fun. I very much enjoy Mega Banette. It gets slept on. As a Mega, there are obviously better Megas out there, but in a team like this, where I'm going to want to have to deal with specific threats, I feel like Mega Banette is going to work so well. Because there are going to be wall breakers, there are going to be things that can threaten my entire defensive core, and Mega Banette serves as a way to threaten those out and stop them from doing things. Mega Banette is essentially an insurance policy. Because if I'm about to get swept by a setup sweeper, Mega Banette comes in and says, oh, by the way, Destiny Bond, do you really want to attack me? And either force the switch out, reset the position, reset the situation, or take the sweeper down with Mega Banette. So Mega Banette serves as a very nice insurance policy. Cannot wait to use the thing. Onesie's back, baby! And my final Pokemon is one that I have used before. Only once in one battle in the Battle Union a couple of seasons ago, and it served me super, super well. Actually getting a couple of kills, doing very, very well, is my favourite Pokemon, well, one of my favourite grass types ever. Blossom. That's a squad, boys! So Blossom is a very fun grass type. It's surprisingly bulky for what it needs to do. I originally was looking at grass types that would be able to deal with specific ground type threats. And I could only see one or two that were going to be viable. And one of them was Servine, one of them was Blossom. And it basically came down to, do I want another Eviolite user? Do I want another non-fully evolved Pokemon? Or do I want to go with something that I have the freedom to do all kinds of stuff with? And I figured, yeah, why not? We'll go with Blossom. Blossom's a cool dude. Blossom is amazing, and I actually got a couple of kills with it in one of my previous leagues, which led to people realizing that Blossom isn't actually terrible. It just requires a skilled trainer, so it's going to do nothing here because I'm terrible. Oh, dearie me. So yeah, that's the squad. We now have 2 clerics in the form of Sylveon and Blossom. We now have a couple of wall breakers in Salazzle, Mienshao, and Crocodile. We have a lot of bulk in everything else. We now have Mega Banette to do shenanigans, and I'm very happy with the balance of this team. There's only one final thing I must do, and that is tell you what my Z Pokemon are going to be. Now, I have 200 points to pick 2 Z Pokemon that are going to be able to use Z moves for the season. I had a couple of ideas. I initially toyed with the idea of going with Z Goodra. I also toyed with the idea of going with Z Salazzle, also Z Crocodile, but I settled eventually on probably the best user of Z moves that we have on the squad, with Zapdos, and also with the 20 points remaining, I figured might as well give it to Blossom rather than Duosion, because I'm really not going to use Z Duosion. I'll probably use Z Blossom if I get a chance to meme, but yeah, that's a thing. Z Zapdos and Z Blossom are going to do things here. Z Zapdos is fantastic with that ancient power, with all the other stuff it gets. It just hits like a truck and throws out some really unexpected coverage. And Z Blossom, with all of its fun stuff, I could do like Z Sunny Day Chlorophyll Solar Beam shenanigans. I could do all kinds of awesome stuff with Blossom, and I cannot wait to give the little girl a go. So that is the team. That is your Birmingham Spritzee for this season of the Eon World Tour, and that is what we're going to be doing. The first match will be up against Shuckle King, I believe it is, and the Philadelphia Absols very soon. I can't give you an exact date just because everything's up in the air and I still haven't confirmed with the league what's what. But yeah, that's your team, and keep track. Actually watch, because I'm actually going to upload this. I'm not just going to upload 1 or 2 battles and then be like, well, where's he gone? No, I'm going to see this through to the end. I'm going to have fun with it, and we're going to do some fun edits and some fun stuff with it. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I do hope you have enjoyed. If you have, don't forget to have a look in the description for all of the links to all of the other coaches. Find out who's joining this magnificent league. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you can keep up to date, and hit that bell button so you know whenever the next battle is uploaded. That's it from me, though. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you look after yourselves, look after other people, and generally, just have a fantastic day. I will see you in the next video of whatever I make, and until then, bye-bye.